Good question.
That's a great question.
Because this time in the Appalachian Trail, again, this is my third time through, we saw more dogs than ever before. Tons of people hiking with their dogs. It can be done. You can through hike the entire Appalachian Trail with your dog. You can't have them in the Smokies, and you can't have them in the Whites, I think. Or maybe Baxter State Park in Catan, you're not allowed to have them.
Smokies, Shenandoah.
Oh, I know a young lady who tried to do the Pacific Crest Trail with her dog, and that was a miserable failure because the whole southern part of that trail is all desert, the Southern California desert. It's the Mojave and the Anzo Borrego Desert, and it's just too hard on a dog. You know, they get thorns in their paws and everything. So,
I mean, talk about the parts where, like, we have to take our backpack off and literally toss it. What do you do with your dog?
Yeah, how are you gonna, stuff like that?
You're literally finding wrought iron and ladders and
I don't see how
man-made stuff just to get to the next spot, and you literally throw your gear and then figure out how you're going to get there. What do you do with your dog?
Yeah, that part I wasn't sure, but that's one of the main things I noticed was more dogs. I noticed more hiker services. Again, this is just the Appalachian Trail, but tons of shuttle services, tons more hostels, new hostels. You get a bunk and a load of laundry for 10 or 15 bucks a night. More dogs, more people overall.
Some of the hostels were dog friendly.
Yeah.
Some of the shuttles were dog friendly as well.
Yeah. So lots of them out there.
They can be dog.
Look happy to you.
Not some of them. Like as soon as the hiker stopped, they would find shade and lie down. And then you see the hiker like, come on, and tugging on the leash, trying to get him going again. It seemed clear to me the animal wants to rest. They wanted to sleep, but they're like, come on. And so, remember that white German Shepherd was a beautiful animal, but
the only dog that I saw that wasn't struggling was a husky.
Yeah, I think some like the Australian cattle shepherds and stuff, they do pretty well. What's up?
Hey Chris, do you carry the pad?
Oh, great gear question. So, basically two choices. You can use a Z-fold pad like this, the Thermarest.
Chris, do you want to hold it up?
Yeah, I should, sorry. You can carry a Thermarest Z-fold pad like this, which is lightweight, and it's pretty comfortable, and you can use it, if you have to sit down and the ground is wet, there's no chairs out there, or if it's snowy, you throw this down, you can spread it out and have lunch on it. Mattress. The advantage there is, to me, it's more comfortable, way more comfortable. Get you up off the ground a couple inches, especially if it's really cold out. Inflatable mattress is great. The weight is about comparable. They're about the same. This you have to tie to the outside of your pack, whereas an inflatable mattress you can put in your pack, so it's a little more aesthetically pleasing to me, When it's really, really cold, I use both. I put this down and I use an inflatable mattress on top of it. So we tried combinations of, she didn't like a mattress so much, she preferred a pad, but you can't have one person up on a pad and the other person down. So we ended up both going with Z-folds. Yours is not Thermarest.
No.
Yours. Yes. Water. Water is everything. You have to have water at least every 3 days or you will die. Water ruins everything it touches. Everything it touches. You cross a stream, you get all soaking wet, you get rained on for 3 or 4 days. Even a little bit of dampness. Say you just have a little dampness in your sleeping bag, but you put it in a stuff sack or a compression bag, and it just spreads. It just goes everywhere. It's insidious, but you gotta have it. The water sources on different trails, some are better, some are worse. In the Whites and up in Maine up there, it seems like there's water everywhere. There's like glacial melt, it's like a dispenser just flowing. You just put your Nalgene right under it, and it's great. And then you look at the Continental Divide Trail hiking through New Mexico. There's no water. There's no natural water out there. Sometimes you come upon, a big for cattle, a big trough. And it's disgusting. There's algae floating in it. There's a cow standing in the middle actively pooping in it, and that's your only water source. So in a case like that, you got to filter it, or you could get sick. If it's really bad off, I start with a bandana. I filter the water through a bandana to get all the macro stuff out, and then I use Sawyer. Sawyer filters are great. They filter down to 10 microns. So Giardia and cryptosporosis takes care of that. It doesn't take care of flavor, if there's a bad flavor in the water, or surfactants, soaps and fuels and stuff like that. It doesn't get rid of that. But it does reduce the risk of Giardia and cryptosporosis. I've gone back and forth. First of all, I've used iodine tablets. I've used, for the PCT, I used a little thing of bleach and put 2 drops per liter. I've used gravity filters before. I used this Sawyer Squeeze for a long time, but this last time through the AT, I didn't filter anything. I think hikers in general, I filter every drop because I don't want to get sick and have people say, well, the first question, did you filter your water? No, she said. So, more reasons for that, but I don't filter all my water. I should. I don't. Yes?
What was the dental floss in your, little first aid kit with the needle?
Dental floss is great. Dental floss is multi-useful, yeah. We say on the trail, if something only has one use, it's useless. Get rid of it. But you can use dental floss to sew up the seat of your pants without getting too graphic. The blood has been torn out of these pants several times. I've sewn this puppy, my old puppy. Yeah. This thing has a couple thousand miles on it. Tom, when you first gave me this, it was like that bright metallic blue, but it's worn down now. And eventually the zipper tore out, so I sewed it with dental floss. So everything with dental floss, you can put your pack back together. Yeah, dental floss is great stuff. I carry it with me on every hike. Super tough. More questions? Yes?
Can you talk about the trekking poles and just like how you use them?
Sure. Sure. Great question, because it's been said that not everyone starts the Appalachian Trail with trekking poles, but everyone finishes with them because they take the weight off. Steep uphills and steep downhills. It helps protect you from soft tissue injuries in your ankles and your knees. Going steep downhill, steep uphill, and eventually they become just extensions of your hands. Before I sit down on a log, I thwap it a few times to make sure it's not full of ants or bees or whatever. I want to know how deep the water is, or how thick the ice is, or anything. You end up using your. Or if you have a tent, you better have trekking poles. And you set them for a certain height. I forget what yours were for your tent. And yeah, your trekking poles wind up being part of your tent. I use black diamond mostly. These ones have a carbide tip that lasts. Usually what happens is the plastic and even the metal around the carbide tip will wear away before the actual tip does. And so, but these have a couple thousand miles on them. I put a little reflective tape on there in case I'm road walking at night, or I want to be seen. I'd like to bring a little bit of duct tape with me just in case. And so, when I first started, I had a roll of duct tape. And someone's like, why are you carrying all that? Why are you carrying the cardboard core to it? Just put a couple feet of it around your trekking pole and call it good. I've had these cord handled ones, a little bit bent, for a long time. These have a couple thousand miles on them. I think I've been through maybe 6 or 8 pairs of trekking poles over the years. And they give it eventually, but Black Diamond makes some really good ones.
Did you use them on your Michigan trails?
Yes, all
Michigan
of them.
being flat?
Even when it's flat, yeah. Michigan is super flat, and I still use them. It's just, they're just comfortable and convenient. In fact, when I did that hike in the Baja Divide in Mexico and I pushed the cart, I couldn't use trekking poles. I had to hold the cart. And it's like pushing a wheelbarrow. You can't just do it with one hand. You have to have both hands on the stupid thing. So I couldn't use my trekking poles, and I hated it. I couldn't use my natural walking motion. I had to push this cart, and so I really, really miss my trekking poles on that hike. Other questions? Yes?
Are those darn tough socks, compression socks?
Yeah, they're made out of Vermont, and if you get the over-the-calf ones, they really squeeze. They are really tight, and they just seem to last forever. I was a big Smartwool fan. Those are her darn toughs. Yep.
They go all the way up to right under your knee, and they're great. And yeah, they do feel like compression. They're amazing.
Yeah, super good, but at $30 a pair. So you have to factor in.
Lifetime warranty.
Oh, yeah.
Lifetime guarantee.
So here's a great AT story. Jackie says, oh, they offer a darn tough guarantee. I said, well, what do you think, Jack? You're going to walk in there with your nasty, stank darn toughs,
Yeah.
and they're just going to give you a free pair of new ones? And they did. She went into Duncannon, a little town in Pennsylvania. I didn't go in, and she came skipping out the other end with brand new darn toughs. Yeah, and I said, they just took your old socks. And she said, yeah. So yeah, that is a good quality about
Best
that.
socks ever.
Yeah.
Hands down. Best
Yeah.
socks ever.
Yeah.
for hiking.
So somebody asked, how do you afford all of the hiking time? What about work or a job?
What about work or a job? Well, a couple things. One is I've sort of molded my life so that I'm able to do this. I'm not married anymore. I don't have kids. You know, I don't have people depending on me. If you have a family, you can't just leave for 6 or 8 months at a time. I used to work steadily in cardiology in the hospital. I did that kind of work for 18 years. And once I started hiking, I just decided, like Lynn was describing, that I don't want to do that anymore. So I just do whatever job I can to get enough scratch together to get me back to where I belong on the trail. So I worked at Old Country Buffet, and I painted a house for a little bit, and worked at Starbucks, and now I'm moving furniture for Fairlane Furniture Restoration. It's backbreaking work, but it pays pretty well, and they understand that just about every spring I'm going to have to leave and go do a trail. And they seem very accommodating. I worked forever at Ollie's Bargain Outlet, like bottom of the line retail. It's a horrible job, I hated it, but it got me enough scratch together to get out back on the trail. And a job like that, the training is a very intensive 30 seconds. So I wasn't leaving them like high and dry. You know, I didn't want a job. I wanted a disposable job. You know, something that if I left, I wasn't leaving them in a lurch. You know, or looking for a new employee. So moving heavy stuff doesn't take that much training. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now, and that's what I'll keep doing as long as they keep letting me hike. More questions?
What about rain pants?
Rain pants. Well,
Sent them home.
we went round and round. She was like, I'm bringing these rain pants. And I said, I brought them before, and basically the lower half of your body is going to get wet. And no matter what, even with rain pants, like it's just going to get in there and get wet. And she said, well, I'm going to bring them maybe as another layer to help keep me warm. And I didn't want to talk her out of it and then be out there and have her say, I wish I had been rain pants. She brought them, and she ended up sending them home.
I never wore them and sent them home.
I brought them my first time in AT, and I sent them home. I do see people wear a rain skirt. Our dear friend Buck 30 wears a rain skirt, which is kind of cool. You know, it's usually like Cuban fiber or some waterproof material, and it's just like a skirt, and it keeps, you know, most of your lower half dry. You can sit down on a wet log, you can sit down in the wet, and it'll be okay. If you're out there for days or weeks when it rains, yeah, people ask all the time, what happens when it rains?
Embrace the rain. That's all you can do.
You better learn to love all of the weather.
Yeah.
If you're going to be out there for days and weeks, you better just learn to love all the weather. Otherwise, at least part of it's going to be miserable. So, I do. Yes?
What time of year do you recommend the Appalachian Trail?
Most people do it northbound, and they start in the spring. With the peak being around April 1st is when most people start. That's when they call the bubble or the herd will start moving north. So when I did it southbound, I started later. I started in June because you have to wait for the snow to melt up at Baxter and in the Whites. So I started a little bit later. But they really encourage non-traditional through hikes, like flip-flops. You know, if you can start at the northern terminus and go to the midpoint, and then, you know, take transportation down to the southern, because that relieves a lot of the stress on the trail resources, and you know, you don't have these campgrounds packed with this 50 and 60 tents in there. So, you know, for me, the first time I did it and I flip-flopped, it just relieved all the pressure of weather. You know, I was taking forever. If you don't get to the halfway point, Harper's Ferry, by about July 4th, you're going too slow. You know, you're not going to make it to the northern terminus before they close Baxter State Park. So we took a train ride and climbed Katahdin, and then we took forever to come back down and finished in glorious fashion at Harper's Ferry in West Virginia. It was a lot of fun.
How long was that train?
The train? A couple days up there. I ended up burning myself because right before Baxter State Park is the 100 miles wilderness, and you need about 8 to 10 days worth of food to do that. And so in Harper's Ferry, I bought 10 days worth of food, but I ate 2 days worth of it going up there. So when I did the 100 mile wilderness, I fell short, and I ran out of food the last 2 days, and it's difficult. You know, my legs just became like lead. You know, I was so lethargic. I just had no energy, and I would eat a couple handfuls full of. Like for me, I know that I need about 1 liter of water for every 5 miles. So, you know, and I also know the most I can carry is about 6 liters of water. That's more than 13 pounds just in water. So on a hike like the Negev Desert, you know, I can carry 6 liters, but we had to pre-cache our food and water in the desert. You have to go out there days ahead of time and dig a hole and bury your stuff and mark the GPS coordinates where your stuff's at, and then you hike from cache to cache. So you need to know how far you can go on water, and different people are different, and you need to know how much food you eat. I eat about 1.5 pounds of food a day. Some people eat more, some people eat less, but you know, inevitably you're gonna screw it up and you're gonna be hungry. you know, for a day or two. It's not the worst thing, you know. I should say too, overall about planning, I should have said this, you gotta be flexible. I see people plan out a long distance hike, and on this day I'm gonna be here, and I'm gonna be here exactly this day, and I'm gonna carry this exact amount to here, and I just, you can't be like that. The weather, topography, injury, all kinds of stuff happens that forces you to be a little more flexible. It's good to have a general kind of plan, you know, and your goals for, you know, certain time periods, but if you try and have a really strict schedule, you're just gonna disappoint yourself.
To answer what she said, personally, if I was gonna do the AT again, I would start in the beginning of March.
Oh, shoot, maybe start a little bit earlier. So,
A little bit cooler weather.
cooler, be freezing up there in the
Cooler
Smokies.
weather, you can get gear to be prepared for that, less bugs, ahead of the bubble.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that. It seems like they're starting a little bit earlier in the year, but she makes valid points. You know, start earlier, give you more time to get to Katahdin, but the Smoky Mountains are up like 5,000–6,000 feet, and man, it's cold up there.
Yes,
and,
it is.
the earlier in the year it is, the colder it is. So now maybe you have to carry extra warm gear, and you're gonna have to have the expense of mailing that home at some point too. So they're just all things to.
Howard Fletcher, should it be offended?
No, what author?
Howard Fletcher?
Oh, be offended now, because I don't know who that is.
Maybe like the time, 1,000-mile summer?
No, sir. Jackie, write that down. I'll check it out though.
Went to like Grand Canyon,
Oh, did he? Yeah?
like,
Then I need to read that, because I intend to do it. So, yeah, thank you though, I appreciate it. Anyone else?
I'm hoping maybe when you open up for the table to let people look at stuff, there's been a handful of questions that maybe you want to address.
Sure.
Okay, there's, somebody asked about bears on the trail.
Bears. Yeah, you know, again, I look at risk. I think about probability versus possibility. You know, I've seen dozens of black bears. I've seen a handful of grizzly bears. I had one very close encounter in Montana. I had just finished the Continental Divide Trail, and I was waiting to take the train home. I was going to camp for about a week outside of a little town, and I had a nuisance bear, a black bear, that came into my camp. One day, he caught me taking a nap, and he came right into my tent, like nose to nose. And I borrowed some bear spray from a guy that I met, and I let him come to my camp, and I sprayed him in the face, and he ran away. Looking back, that was not very ethical. That's not how bear spray is supposed to be used. You're supposed to use it in an emergency if you're being attacked by a bear. You
got mad.
Yeah, I told myself, well, I'm making sure he's not habituated to people, but that's not how you're supposed to use bear spray. And then this last hike, I'll tell a quick story, in that Jackie and I were hiking along, and we found this campsite. It's perfect, man, it was flat, there's a setting log, there's a water source, and we're staying here. How come no one else is camped here? That's crazy. And we set up our tent, and I started making dinner. I went about 20 yards away from the tent. You don't want to cook and eat where you sleep. And before I knew it, a bear had walked right into our camp and was headed right for the tent. She was in the tent, I was cooking, and I yelled, "Jackie, there's a bear." And I started clanking my trekking poles together and making noise. She didn't seem to care too much. She didn't even get out of the tent. She was like, "Where?" So finally she gets out of the tent and she says, "Oh, look, there's 3 more. So it was a mama bear and 3 cubs. And they weren't cute little cubs. They were like, I don't know, a couple years old or whatever, and really curious and really aggressive. And at first I threw stuff at them and they went away. They came back again, I threw stuff at them, and then they just kept circling our camp, like just out of reach. Like I would grab a log and throw it, maybe I can throw it, I don't know, to the back of the room. They would stay just out of reach. And so we had to break down our tent and finish eating while the bears were there. And then we had to skedaddle and get the heck out of there.
Get soaked. How do you dry it out on the trail?
You pray for sunshine, really is something you get. But down versus synthetic is a good one because each has attributes. My old Mountain Hardwear Puffy was down, and like I said, I've got thousands of miles on this. But eventually it gets kind of flat, it loses its loft, and sometimes the down gets crunched into the baffles. This is my new piece. This is Big Agnes. It's called the Smoke and Axle Jacket, and this is all synthetic. This is Primaloft, 100% Primaloft. So, the insulation doesn't bunch up like down sometimes can. I think it might dry a little bit faster. I don't know. I haven't taken it on trail yet. I just got it. So yeah, out with the old and in with this one. So same with sleeping bags. You know, down sleeping bags are great. They have some disadvantages. Sometimes when they get wet, the down can all get packed into the baffles. But you know, I think it's probably warmer overall.
And one final thing is I wanted to let you know that those that were here that wore their stormers, they wanted you to know.
I
that they
appreciate
have it
that.
on.
I appreciate everyone who's watching online right now. Online. Thanks, guys. And with that, I should say. Always got some ski on my sleeve.
Well, I don't know. I didn't even bring a water bottle for myself. I'm gonna be the first one to take something from this table.
Hey everybody, I hope you like these videos in this series. If you like them, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe if you wish. Two Toes Adventures, and leave something in the comments. Where would you like me to go on other trips, trails? I'm looking forward to visiting new trails throughout Michigan. Once again, thank you.